Good afternoon, Rotarians.
Good afternoon.
Emil, would you please open us up with the invocation?
Sure. Let's pray. Dear Lord, thank you for the opportunity of being together as the Rotary Club of Lawrence. This is good to our bodies and much to your service. Be with us as we listen to our guests this morning and learn new good things about USC. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. If you'll join us in our Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Y'all may be seated. Do we have any visiting Rotarians or guests today? I don't think so. Michael, would you mind doing Happy Bucks? I was waiting until you were about to get a bite.
Good job.
You're welcome.
Who's happy today?
I'm happy that I sold a bunch of tickets for raise barbecue.
Excellent. Good job raising money for Rotary.
I'm happy to be Rotary this week.
We're happy you were there.
I'm happy to have a game job. We are too.
Somebody's got to be.
I'm happy our community's gonna get together and help Memorial.
Excellent.
Michael, I've got two things to be happy. I'm happy that the Gamecocks have not allowed a touchdown. I'm happy that the Tigers have not scored a touchdown.
Who allowed through a touchdown?
And I'm just happy for the good food today.
It is good food, right? Excellent.
I'm happy it's my favorite night.
I'm happy to listen to Chance talk about Carolina.
I'm so happy to be a cool tiger.
Gotta have some of those too.
I'm just happy to help.
Thank you.
Feel a little fall weather.
It's good out there. Well, thank you, Jim. I appreciate that. What you happy about today?
Happy and honored to be here with the Gamecocks win.
Excellent.
Happy for the few Gamecocks we have here and the other Rotarians.
I'm happy for the kayak trip tomorrow.
All right, and I am, of course, happy about the Tigers playing football again, and I'm also very excited about the Gamecocks and their potentially good season. What is this? For?
Good overall.
There you go. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Michael. Way to brush off the rust. I think we have a couple different announcements. I'm gonna let Jonathan start.
All right, so I want to remind everybody about the barbecue fundraiser coming up next Friday evening. If you have not turned in your money for tickets, let me know. Even if you don't let me know. If you need additional tickets, let me know, and we can get you some more tickets. We also are going to need some help. Patty will be there to have the church unlocked. She'll coordinate with Ray about what time he needs to be there. But if we can have about 3 volunteers from 4:30, it would be good if you could do 4:30 to 7. You can break that up. You can. But we'll need about 3 people to help. That's also going to be a Friday night live downtown next Friday. So one thing I've been encouraging some people that bought tickets from me for is to get their food there and come downtown and eat it and enjoy the music and everything. So if you got money, let me know. If you need more tickets, let me know. And if you can volunteer, let me or Patty know.
Thank you, Jonathan. Amber, do you have an announcement as well?
Yes. So, we handed out duck race tickets. I think most of you are more familiar with this than I am. So each person should have gotten an envelope with 10 tickets in it, except one person, and I have your envelope. So remind me, they are responsible for these 10 tickets,
Yes.
which means you must sell your 10 tickets, is my understanding. And then the other thing that I handed out to you guys was a sponsorship card. And my understanding of this is that this is where we really make the most money on this fundraiser. So on each table, I put a couple of these. And so if you want to take a picture of it, whatever you feel like is best for you. These are past year sponsors for Duck Race. So if we can kind of divide and conquer this list and see if we can get at least these sponsors and maybe some more. It would be greatly appreciated. And tickets are, how much piece? $5 a piece?
Yep.
Okay.
And there's coupons on the tickets that basically pay for the $5. So be sure to plug that, and thank you for those community sponsors who were willing to do that as well. Any other announcements, Edie?
I need a team of folks for tomorrow morning at 9:30 to do backpack. I have Claude, who else? Don't all say yes at once. It doesn't take but about 15 minutes, does it, Brett?
That's right.
Because Brett's down there and we can't keep the door open, I know that. All right, who else is gonna help me tomorrow?
Anybody be in town? Maybe after the meeting, we can track down some people or personally call them if need be.
Well, I have done it by myself once.
Well, Claude will be there for sure. I would be, but I will be passing.
It's gonna be there.
Thank you all for those of you who do volunteer and do extra over and above. Remember, it's not just about us coming and getting an excellent meal all day. That's a nice part of it. Thank you, Ray. Y'all remember that. Any other announcements? No? Okay. Well, I'm going to let...
Oh, yeah, Rotary Readers. Jim, is that what you said? Rotary Readers?
There's somebody over here.
Oh, okay. So
What do you want to know about it?
I'll share. Edie had shared with me that we're going to be recording some Rotary Readers. Edie, we do not have everyone lined up, correct?
I got a list of names last week.
So they are lined up.
We will be contacting 3 people for the first session.
Okay. Yeah, and we're going to be recording those and putting them on the Rotary YouTube page so that the kids at the school can watch the Rotary Readers still.
All right. Thank you for those of you who kind of thought up that idea and continue to pursue, given the times that we're in. Now, I'm going to let, are you considered a sir now? Here's Brian. I'm going to let Brian introduce our speaker for the day and hear a little bit about Gamecocks and maybe their seasons coming up. A little bit of everything. I don't know if we'll have sandstorm or not, but we'll see. Thank you.
Look, I will tell y'all, look, I brought my glasses, but look how big I made it. So I won't get on camera having my glasses on this time, so I really don't need them. But, you know, I knew we could start when Jeff got here because he's one of the last Gamecocks, so we added to our entourage for Chance. So thank you for showing up. But it is my pleasure today, because we know it's Literacy Month. Yes, you will hear some about athletics, but really, I asked Chance to focus on what we require the athletes to do as far as their studies, their areas of focus, how they serve the community, and what the university is doing as a whole. Because there's a lot of things that the flagship university is doing that a lot of people don't know about, because we don't get as much coverage in the upstate as we deserve. And you're going to get a little bit of that as well. And what Chance leaves out, I'll stand up and remind you before we leave. That's one thing when you are the host or you have the speaker for the day. It's not over till we sit down. So, but it is my pleasure. I have Chance Miller. He's the senior deputy athletics director. Has been since July of 2019. He reports, somebody asked about our baseball coach, former coach. He does report directly to athletic director Ray Tanner and our general counsel. I think you will learn that he's a lawyer by trade, so we all surround ourselves with lawyers. But his responsibilities are athletics, the athletic department senior management team. He oversees the day-to-day operations of the athletic department. This is not in his bio, but I can tell you Chance was the key leader getting our athletes through what we've been through since last March and getting our players on the field and keeping them safe and as healthy as possible. He has been with the university since April of 2013, so he is not new to our area. He worked at the NCAA as well, so he knows the rules and the regulations to keep us out of trouble and find things that we can report Clemson on. He has been a lead investigator on some infractions, so keep that in mind. Dealing with ethical conduct and regulations with NFL teams as well. Prior to going to the NCAA, he practiced law in New York City. So New York City to Lawrence, about the same. I haven't ridden him around the square yet. I knew we were competing with the Touchdown Club today when I got to park right beside Ray. I mean, we drove in, parking spots right open, but I think the food was better here today than I knew they were having out there too, Ray. So, but he is a native of Johnson City, Tennessee. Another famous person who put Gamecock winners on there was from Johnson City, named Steve Spurrier. He's a graduate of the University of Tennessee and New York Law School. He has his wife is Lauren, and they have 2 children, Jason and Kayla. Y'all please join me in welcoming Chan Spurrier.
All right, good afternoon. So I want to start by saying thank you. It's an honor to be here today. I look back when I was younger, my grandfather used to take me to Rotary meetings all the time, and he would kick my butt if he was around, and I forgot cash to put into the happy jar, but my friend Brian here spotted me, so I owe you a lunch for that. Do want to thank you for being here, and want to take a couple of minutes just to share some good things that we are doing at Gamecock Athletics and as college athletics as a whole. I think a lot of the times everyone sees the big time college football contest, and that's all they see with college athletics, but there is so much more to it that goes on. Our student athletes are phenomenal individuals, and I can say that across the board with all college athletes. What they go through on a day-to-day basis is pretty remarkable. To be able to get up at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, report in, go through all their nutrition testing, their hydration testing, get ready for team meetings, get ready for practice, then have to go straight from practice to class as they're eating on the run, and then they're going to rehab afterwards or to visit their athletic trainer, and then we make them go to tutoring, their academic advising appointments, and they also have to do community service. And I think by the end of the night, they're so exhausted. Good thing is we don't have to worry about them going out and making trouble because they can barely hold their eyes open. But that's not just with Gamecock Athletics. I think that's with all college athletes across the board. I'm really proud of our athletes and what they do. I want to share a couple things because we lose sight on this that they're there to get their academics as well. And there's a couple things that I always like to point out. And I think our academic staff, USC Athletics, do a phenomenal job with our student athletes. We have had 29 straight semesters with over a 3.0 GPA for all of our students. That is hard to do. And every semester I think there is no way they're going to do this again, and somehow they just keep going. We had our 3rd highest GPA with all of our student athletes this past spring semester, and hope to beat it again this fall. We had 460 of our 575 student athletes that made the student athlete SEC academic which I think that's probably one of the more impressive things that we've done within athletics, that over 75% of our student athletes made that AD honor roll. We have 4 academic All-Americans, which is the highest number we've ever had, and tied for, I think, 2nd all-time within the SEC. And what I love overseeing football, we have 21 football student athletes that have already graduated and received their degree playing on the field this fall. And they're going for a graduate degree right now as we speak. That's pretty impressive if you look at it. They've put the time in the classroom and on the field. And since 2015, I think this is a great stat, we've had 2,435 student athletes make the SEC AD honor roll. I think that's phenomenal. And you can tell because they go out, they get jobs, they're contributing to our community, and very proud of them. One of the other things I really like to hit on is our student athletes have led or tied for first with the SEC the last 3 years. on community service involvement and the number of hours that we give to our community. And that's across the state. I want to talk to you a little bit about USC has a Center for Community Literacy program. They call it the Cocky Reading Express, where we send out our mascot Cocky to all the high schools, or not high schools, all the pre-K from 4 years old up to our second grades. We send them all out around the state. We went to 46 different counties where Cocky and students, student athletes, staff all go out and read to these individuals. And it's usually the underserved communities. And what they're trying to do is deliver books to them, really read books on their grade level to get them interested in reading, to give them the ability to take books home with them, and really promote just literacy and also promote higher education and what they can achieve to be. And I think it's been amazing. The last 15 years, they've donated 140,000 books to in-state schools. We have visited, again, all the counties in South Carolina and will continue to do so. And it really motivates the young kids. You can see them. They get excited. They get excited when student athletes that they look up to and they watch play every weekend come in and read to them. And I think they're more excited about the mascot. I know my 5-year-old does that. I take him to all these games and we get behind scenes access and we're in the locker room and he just wants to know where Cocky is all the time. So I think Cocky's the biggest draw on that. But I want to talk about our student athletes and what they do with that Center for Literacy. We have on average about 75 student athletes that go out every year with this center to read to, again, pre-K all the way up to second graders. And they do that because there was a recent study within the state that showed that 22% of third graders in the state were below where they needed to be from a literacy standpoint. And our student athletes not only do this community literacy program, we also have on average 5 to 10 student athletes each week in a school, in an elementary school, reading to people around the state. So I would really encourage you, and for the non-Gamecock fans and the Clemson fans, Clemson also has a similar program with their student athletes for community service hours, and they do something similar. I would encourage you, if you know of any of those elementary schools or any of those preschools that would like to have the student athletes come and read to them, please reach out to us. We'd love to have it, and our student athletes love it. You look at them and you think they're these big adults, and then you look at them and realize they're really just kids too. They like to have fun. And so I would encourage you to please reach out and utilize them, have them come into local communities and really help out. So we talked about community service, talked about some of our academics. Let's talk about the season. All right. I'll tell you, somebody asked me the other day, I was just telling Brian this story. He said, how's it been since you took over this new role? And I kind of had to think about it for a second. I said, well, I took over, and 3 months later, our football team went 4-8. We then went into COVID. Everything shut down. We had to figure out what we were going to do, how we were going to get back into playing sports, how we were going to keep our student athletes safe and test them and get them back on the field of competition and in the classroom as well safely. And then we went through COVID. Went 2-8 in football, had to make a coaching change in football. I've made a coaching change in football, swimming and diving, and men's soccer. If you'd told me when the pandemic hit I would be making 3 coaching changes in 3 sports, I would have probably laughed at you, but here we are. And we were, $40 million in the red because of the reduced capacity. So I told somebody, well, the last 2 years have been pretty good otherwise. But it's been a great learning experience. Had a lot thrown at me, and I give all the credit in my career to Coach Tanner. Coach Tanner's really let me take in the reins on a lot of things and run with it. And one of those was trying to get us back during COVID and be able to get back in. And one thing that I think shows the great partnership that we have with our university, we really, when the pandemic hit and we sent everyone home, I think President Caslin was there at the time, and he created task groups. And it was across 8 different sectors of the university, from admissions to health and safety, to classrooms, you name it. And I think what showed our partnership with the university really well was that each of those 8 groups had someone from the athletics department represented in each one of those. And I thought that was wonderful. It was great to have a seat at the table in each one of those. And they really looked to us because we're used to a lot of this crisis, at work. And we really came together. There was a lot of conference calls, a lot of Zoom calls. I think I took more meetings when we were at home for COVID than when we actually came back. That was a little difficult with the 5 and 3-year-old at home. They think when daddy's home, it's playtime. I'll tell you a quick story. I'll divert for a second. I'm on the call with the president, the SEC commissioner, and all the ADs, right? And I've dressed up, I've got my tie on, I'm wearing shorts underneath, because I'm sitting there on the Zoom. And all of a sudden they all start laughing when I go to talk, and I'm thinking, what am I saying wrong? And then I look back, my 5-year-old is naked dancing on the table behind me. So I told my wife, I said, look, I'm sorry to leave you here with them, but I got to start going back in the office. I can't keep doing this. But with the university's help, one of the biggest issues with all the schools and athletics departments were trying to find testing, right? That was when testing was pretty sparse. There was a lack of it, and we had to be able to test them to make sure we were good putting them in a room together and competing and training and getting ready. And our university, in partnership, I think, with Yale, our pharmacy department created a Saliva Test. And that Saliva Test it's actually more accurate than the PCR test that people are using. And you can actually see the levels that people have if they're tested positive with COVID, to the point where you can see if they're getting ready to peak, or if they're coming off of it, or if they're no longer contagious. And the PCR test will still pick up that it's positive, but they're not contagious anymore. We can show that. And that was a huge help for us, because while Missouri and Georgia and Florida were struggling trying to find testing just to be able to bring student athletes back, we were able to bring them back and send them over to our pharmacy department, and they were able to test them daily without being invasive on it, and be able to get those test results back to us within 3 hours. So we would know right then and that day if we had an outbreak, if we had an issue. We were able to separate people. And I really think with that partnership with the university is what got us through last year. If you look last year, we were one of 2 teams. I think us and Kentucky in football were the only 2 teams that did not miss a regular season game or have to delay a regular season game. And we were able to do that because we could track really well if there was getting ready to be an outbreak or not. And we did that across all of our sports. We had very few delays or cancellations because of that. And that's all the credit in the world to our university and the research that they do and the funds that they put forward to this to try to get through it. It wasn't an easy year by any stretch of the imagination. We're actually still going through it. We still have to test our athletes. We've still had some outbreaks. It's going through, trying to work with our state legislatures, the local community, and make sure we're good partners too. We don't want to be just athletics is out here doing its own thing and we're not helping the community. So we've really been diligent in that and trying to work through it. But we are here now. We opened the season last weekend with a great win. It was a good one to be able to get under our belts. And I don't know if our team got tested a whole lot or if we found out much about our team, but it was nice just to have a win and a shutout for the first time since 2008 and get everybody excited again. Who are my Gamecock fans? Raise your hands real quick. All right, I got quite a bit of you in here. That's good. So I will tell you this. I don't know about you guys, but it's kind of a different momentum, a different feel around the program. And when we went to make that new hire, really wanted to be strategic about finding somebody that fit South Carolina, that fit our alumni, our donor base, the people here locally, and wanted to be here because it was the University of South Carolina. I've worked with too many coaches that wanted to tell me how Georgia did it, how Clemson did it, how Alabama did it. I'm a big proponent of, I don't care how those people do it. I want people to say this is how South Carolina did it. And I think we're getting there. We found some niches that we've been able to find and tweak that we now have Georgia and Florida and everybody calling us saying, how'd you do that? That's a good feeling. All right, that lets you know you're doing it right. And when we interviewed Coach Beamer, Coach Tanner and I had a list of about 15 coaches that we wanted to interview. And so we said, we're going to do phone interviews at first, and then we'll start narrowing it down and we'll fly around. And our first interview was with Coach Beamer. And I remember it like it was yesterday. Called him up. It was 9:30 at night. And I looked at Coach Tanner and said, "Do you think we're calling him too late?" And he said, "Well, if he can't answer phone at 9:30 at night, he doesn't need to be our coach." So I said, "Okay, that sounds great." Talked to him for about 5 minutes. And in the first 5 minutes, I hit the mute button. And I looked at Coach Tanner and I said, "We don't have to do any more interviews. We got our person." He fit everything we were looking for. And like Coach Tanner always says to me, he says, "You young buck, you think you know everything. We're going to have to go through this, because if we take it to the board and we only interviewed one person, they're going to kill us." But he was the front runner from day one. Again, fit everything we wanted to do. I wanted a family atmosphere and environment with our student athletes. I wanted our students. Yes.
We also fit everything you wanted.
That is true. That is true. It was a great fit. I've been in the football ops building and the practice for the past couple of years. You look at our student athletes; they're still young. They need to have fun. It's not a job yet. Right? If they get lucky to be a professional, that's a job. But I wanted them to have fun and enjoy coming in every day, and that wasn't the case. We weren't having fun. We weren't enjoying playing. Once everybody was done with practice, they didn't hang around. They didn't want to hang out with each other. They didn't want to eat with each other. And that's not what college athletics is about. College athletics is about being a team, learning how to overcome adversity, and bringing communities together. I mean, we talk about it. We give each other a hard time walking in. Clemson and Gamecock fans giving each other a hard time, right? But we're all sitting around here fellowshipping about it. That's a good thing. That's what we need. And Coach Beamer really brought that. He promised in the interview process, talked about the things he wanted to see done. And I thought, if he can do all this, that will be phenomenal. And I'll tell you what, to this day, it has been pretty phenomenal. He's done everything we've asked from him and more. He's engaged those athletes. They are over there all the time. They hang out with each other. They eat together. They're around each other. He preached family from day one when he walked in. And I can tell you, it really resonated with everybody. So much so, I was telling Brian this last night, every Wednesday night, we have a family dinner. And that is the student athletes and any family that they have in town come in and eat with us, as well as staff and all the family and kids as well. So I took my wife and my kids over last night. We sat down. My kids barely ate anything other than the ice cream and the chocolate fudge and everything else they had. I told our dietitian, I said, "They're going home with you tonight because they're not going to sleep. Too much sugar." But I think that really builds a program. I think you got the Clemson fans in here. I think you saw that with Dabo Swinney, right? That's what he came in and did. And not that I want to copy Clemson, but what you guys have built is pretty special. And that's what we need to be able to compete with. And I think we have somebody that is like that. It goes a long way when the wives and families are able to come in and spend time with that program, because their husbands and coaches are gone all fall. I mean, I told my wife and kids the other day before the first game, I left the house and I said, "All right, guys, I love you. I'll see you in January." All right? Football season's a long grind. You're gone all the time, and it makes it nice when they're around the program. They're there, and the student athletes love it too. My son, ran out on the practice fields last night after dinner, and the athletes were trying to go work out. And he stole the ball from Zaquandre White, our running back, that had a really good game last weekend. And so Zaquandre's chasing him, and I kind of worried because I thought, "Zaquandre, you can't catch him. This is not good." But he was running around, and all the other athletes came out, and our strength coach, instead of yelling at him, "Hey, you got to get in here, get ready," he took 5 minutes and let them all play and let them all have a good time. And that was awesome. I really enjoyed that. So much so, I brought my son home last night, and he never sleeps. But last night he hit the bed, he was out. They wore him out. So I sent a picture to all the running back group. And I said, "You guys are babysitting next Friday." But it's been special. I think we're getting really good output from athletes that the past 2 years, I don't think we've gotten much out of them. I think mentally and physically they just weren't there. And I think it's been a really nice change to be able to see. And it's not just Coach Beamer. He's hired some phenomenal individuals around him. Our strength and conditioning coach, if you ever get an opportunity to hear him speak or you can get him up here, he's amazing. He'll fire you up. You can't have a bad day around that guy. And he was so fired up to work here. I was telling Brian earlier, Coach Beamer called me and said, I really want to hire Luke Day as strength coach. He said, will you call him, talk to him, see what you think? And I didn't have the heart to tell Coach Beamer. I said, he didn't have to listen to me. Coach Beamer can hire whoever he wants to on the staff. And if you look at me, I'm not the epitome of strength and conditioning, all right? A little out of shape right now. But call Coach Day, talk to him, and the program that he wanted to put together, the people he wanted to put together around him, I thought this is going to work really well. So I told Coach Day, I said, I know Coach Beamer's made you the offer. I look forward to seeing him in a couple days. And the next morning, I get to the football ops building before anybody, and there's this guy standing at the front door. And it's 7:15 in the morning. And it's Luke Day. He got in his car from Morgantown, West Virginia, and drove down and said, I'm fired up, I'm ready to be here. Gave me a huge bear hug and said, I'm grateful for the opportunity. I don't think I've ever had a coach give me a hug like that. So that was cool. To be able to see the assistant coaches really be blessed and grateful to be here. And I think that's spilled over to our student athletes. And you can see it, the gratitude, that messaging we've been preaching to them, Coach Beamer's really instilled in them, has come out. I saw the other day, our football student athletes, there was a group of about 20 of them. They were walking by, and our ROTC cadets eat at the same location. We've invited our ROTC program in to be able to eat at the location with our athletes. Thought it was a good thing to let them see each other. They have similar days, similar experiences. And they had a couple of the commanders in from Fort Jackson. And without saying anything, we had our football student athletes go up and shake each one of their hands and thank them for their service and thank them for being there. You don't see that a lot nowadays with young individuals. And I think that's special. I think that's something that has been instilled in them and has really been preached to them throughout. And we've really seen a large number of our student athletes start doing more and more community service because he demands it. And I think when you demand something from them, they will rise to that occasion. And I think they're doing that right now. And it's not just football. I'll brag on some of our other sports real quick. Our women's soccer program is a top 15 program in the country. Very young team coming back from last year who had a great season. They're more experienced. They're 5-0. They go up to Clemson on Saturday, so they'll be up this way. So if you want to see two really good teams play Saturday night, go over there and watch them. Men's soccer, we're starting fresh. We've got a new coach. He was from the Atlanta United professional team in MLS. He helped coach their developmental league. He struggled a little bit at first. He's got a system that he wants to run. I don't know if he has the athletes to run it yet. I think he's realizing that pretty quickly. But he did go out and recruit 5 top 100 players, which we haven't had a lot in the past, and they're all coming in next year. So I think that program's going to turn around really quickly. Another one, we hired Tom Mendoza with volleyball. I think it's been 3 years ago now. And our volleyball team was always struggling, especially in the SEC. It's very competitive. And he came in his first year, made the NCAA tournament, which was the first time in years that we have done that, and has been building a program, and they've been more and more successful each year. And this year, we actually hosted 3 top 25 teams to open up the season. It was the hardest preseason tournament in the country. And we were not ranked. The other 3 teams were. And our students and our staff and everybody came out and packed the arena, which was really special to see. And we were able to upset 2 of the 3 teams. So we took down Washington State, which is a perennial power in volleyball, and we took down Rice, which was, I think, the number 12 team in the country at that point in time. Took both of those 2 down, and then played Pittsburgh, which is right now, I think, the number 4 ranked team in the country, and took them to the brink as well. So really proud of our student athletes. Really excited about our swimming and diving program. Like I said earlier, we had to make a coaching change there. McGee Moody, who is one of my good friends this day, I think he was just he was done with coaching. It had been a long time, and he and I sat down at the end of the year, and he decided to step away. And I thought, we've got to go hire somebody that's phenomenal. And went through, had a great candidate list. And then at the last moment, right before we were getting ready to make an offer, I get a call from a Gainesville number. I thought, well, this is weird. Gainesville's calling me. Let's see what this is. And it was their head swimming and diving coach at Florida. I don't know if you guys know much about Florida swimming and diving. They're a perennial power. They're a top 5 program every year. I mean, pretty much every U.S. Olympian you saw win a gold medal this year, I'd say about 90% of them were Florida Gators. And he called me and he said, Chance, I really like the job there, but I don't want to apply if I'm not going to get it because I've got a really good thing going down here. So you got to let me know. I thought it was a prank call. I said, who is this again? He said, this is Jeff Popel. I really want that job. And I said, Jeff, you got to be honest with me. Are you playing me for additional money? You just trying to get a raise at Florida? And he said, no, I really want it. He said, I've been at Florida for a couple years. Even if I win a championship here, they've always done it in Florida. It's nothing new. He said, I really want to go to a place that I can put a stamp on it and do it somewhere that no one's ever done it before. And after he said that, I was good. We didn't need to do an interview. So we got into pay, and I looked at what Florida was paying him. I said, Jeff, I can't pay you that. And he said, that's okay. If I get hired, do I get in-state tuition? And I'm thinking, well, you want to go back and get a degree? And he said, no, my daughter has applied to school there, and my son wants to transfer back to the Dartmouth School of Business for international business to get an MBA. And I said, I'll get you in-state tuition if you take this job. And sure enough, he and his wife came up, we toured him around, made him the offer. His son is transferring after next semester, and his daughter is enrolled as a freshman there, so they have all their family there close by. And our alumni were fired up as well as our student athletes. They couldn't believe we made that hire. I still can't believe it. But he was able to get a really good coaching staff around him. And in the 9 years I've been here, swimming and diving has never, in my 9 years here, has never had a top 100 recruit. And we've got 7 coming in next year. And he's not done yet. I told him when he came in, I said, hey, I'm not expecting much that first 2 years. I know it's going to take a while to recruit. And he looked at me and said, well, respectfully, I don't like losing, so I'm going to win right away if that's okay with you. I said, that's fine. I like that. So he's recruited some really good student athletes. And I was telling Brian, the great thing about overseeing football and swimming and diving, I get 2 different worlds, right? I get student athletes who are first-generation students at university level and come from a little of nothing that make something of themselves and go out and really contribute to the world. And I'm proud to see the growth in them over 3 to 4 years with football. And then I've got the swimming and diving team who has the highest GPA every year. And I feel bad talking to those athletes because when you ask them what do they want to do when they graduate college, they have like a 50-year plan. I don't even know what I want to do next week, right? They have a 50-year plan, but they go out and they become doctors and lawyers and community leaders. And it's really impressive to watch their journey after college. We had a lot of them in the Olympics this year, and to be able to sit there with my son and watch the Olympics and say, Daddy used to be with that guy right there, and be able to text him and FaceTime him after they get out of the pool in the Olympics and let my son see that. That's special, and that's why I like working here and working in college athletics. I think sometimes college administrators like myself, we forget while we're there sometimes. You get yelled at a lot. You get the complaints, especially after games, traffic, concessions. It starts to get you down a little bit, and then you go out and you get to see the student athletes each day, and I think that's special, and that gets you fired back up. And then if I'm ever really down, I go see Luke Day, and he kicks my butt and gets me going. So I want to stop. Did anybody have any questions or anything they'd like to ask before I get?
I hear there was a big problem at the student gate at the football.
Oh yeah, I've been dealing with that for the last 4 days. I was telling Brian, one thing I think we really underestimated, both us and the university, and this is across the board with everybody, because I got on a call with all the other SEC deputy ADs on Tuesday to ask, how'd your games go? And what we found is a lot of people forgot what it's like to be in a massive amount of people and be in lines and be in traffic and have to wait on things. We haven't done that in a long time, right? It's been a while. That was one issue that we haven't experienced in a while. The second issue with the student gate, we realized the freshman and sophomore class had never been to a game at our stadium. They'd never entered into our stadium. They didn't know the protocols. Because the protocols didn't change, the gates didn't change. We just had a group that was not educated on the process, right? So that was an issue. And then the third one, which we are all experiencing this across the country, is staffing issues. Staffing issues are real. It's not just the restaurant industry and hotel industry. We saw it firsthand. We have a security company that we use called UES. They help us with ushers, ticket scanners, people like that. We usually have 300 on game day. We had 350 that we'd extended invitations out to come in. We only got 175. Our ticket scanners, we were down 50. And our concessions, which Airmark is our concessionaire with like a lot of schools around the country, they depend on nonprofit groups, high schools, cheerleading teams, bands. They come in and work a concession stand and they get a profit off of the sales. We usually have 450 Airmark concession employees with nonprofits. We only had 260 show up. We had concession stands that 30 minutes prior to kickoff were not staffed appropriately or they weren't open, and we were plugging and playing with all of our athletic staff members. I had 2 senior staff members in there selling hot dogs and popcorn. Right? They didn't know what they were doing. I was kind of laughing at them because I said, that's probably good for you. You need to roll up your sleeves and get dirty a little bit. But the student gate, same issues. Not enough ticket takers, not enough UES. I don't think the students were prepared for it. We had to put in magnetometers this year per our SEC requirements. Magnetometers are the metal detectors that you walk through. The good thing is we pay for an upgraded version where you don't have to empty your pockets, so it's a little bit quicker. But it just bottlenecked right in there. And then unfortunately, our students didn't do the right thing either. Our students were a little unruly, started pushing from the back to try to get in. But what they didn't realize at the front, you were crushing those people at the front. And the barricade spilled over. We were able to get it under control pretty quickly though. Our police did a fantastic job of trying to get people in and out of the gates. But that's a problem we cannot have going into Kentucky, our next home game. And so we've been meeting on that for the past 4 days, trying to figure out how we're going to do it, how we're going to educate people, trying to find additional staffing. We're paying for buses to bus people from Charlotte and Augusta to try to get nonprofit groups here. But we're all dealing with it. Even I talked to Missouri, Auburn, and I think Kentucky who had home games, and they said they tried to pay $5 more per hour for some of their staff and still couldn't get people. I don't know if anybody saw Virginia Tech Friday night, that game, it was packed. They had a problem with the student gate too. They actually had people climbing the gates and the gates caved in and sent several people to the hospital, and they didn't have staffing. They actually reached out to the city of Blacksburg, put it out there, that if you came and worked for 3 hours, they would give you $500 cash stipend. And they only got 30 people to come in. So I know, I was like, I'll go to Blacksburg for a little bit, you know? But it's staffing is an issue right now, and that's an issue across all of us for college athletics. But you know, we don't use that as an excuse. We still got to get it right. Still got to provide service to people that are paying to come in. You got to have a safe, courteous environment. And my big thing is I like to invest in the fan experience. My family are a huge Disney family. My wife loves Disney. Makes me go down there in July and walk around sweating my butt off all the time. And my kids love it, but I love the experience because they're wonderful to you, right? You can't have a bad experience. If you start to have a bad experience at Disney, they fix it right away. And that's what we got to get to. And that's the mindset and the culture we're trying to build within South Carolina athletics, is that customer service friendly. Make it a good experience, because there's too many other options that people have on a weekend, and gone are the days of opening up a football stadium with metal bleachers in the hot sun and thinking you're going to pack it. Those days are gone. You got to make it better for everybody. Yes?
Just to follow up on that, because one of the things I was wondering about and seeing just some of the different anecdotal things over the country this last weekend, but following up closely on that question, it's been about 3 years, and with COVID we kind of forgot. It's been about 3, maybe 4 years since arenas in the SEC and the ACC and other major conferences started allowing alcohol. And I'm by no means against that, but what we are seeing now is if you want to fly on an airplane, they won't serve you in the main cabin. They're doing some things because they're experiencing an air travel. We're all kind of on edge, you know?
Yep.
And people were so excited to get back into the stadiums. It was clear this weekend. I'm wondering if that was part of the conversations y'all have had, especially looking at not having as much staff as you would normally have, and then having some situations where, you know, and I'm not suggesting anything at all, but I just wonder if and as someone who plans to go to a few games later this year, are these situations where we have to worry about public safety to a degree?
Yeah, you know, beer sales is one thing that we really talked about significantly going into this year. We started at South Carolina serving alcohol in the arena in the football stadium last year. Well, last year we didn't have very many people in there. Right? It's very restricted. And this year, this was the first time we were going to sell alcohol to a full stadium. So it was how was this going to actually function? What we found is points of sale were an issue. Lines backed up. People started getting angry. We've got a plan to be able to try to redistribute those lines. A lot of it is going to have to take some infrastructure upgrades over the next couple of years, which we'll be bringing to you shortly as the Board of Trustees members to be able to allow us to do. But one thing I was impressed by, and what the biggest concern with selling alcohol, what everybody always said was, are people going to get more unruly? Are you going to have more complaints, more issues, more fights? What we actually saw on Saturday was we had less reports than what we had prior to selling alcohol. And what we had noticed before we started selling alcohol, we had done some studies into the University of Texas, West Virginia, and others that had started. They were some of the first ones to sell alcohol. And what they found in all their years before and after selling alcohol is that when they started selling it in the stadium, they had less complaints. They had less issues. And I think they attributed that to the fact that people knew, oh, we don't have to sit out at the tailgate and drink 20 beers and then go into the stadium because we're not going to have any, right? And I don't know about you, but when you give somebody 20 beers out in the parking lot and then you put them in a stadium crammed in and it's hot and nasty, and you don't give them alcohol anymore, they get unruly. So I think selling that has been able to kind of calm down the binge drinking and stuff that you're seeing. We also do not sell it in our student section. So we have security that prevents them from going in and out of those areas that would be able to sell it. And then we've also done a family-friendly section as well. On the Upper South, we call it the Chick-fil-A Family Friend Zone. And people can buy tickets up there, get a Chick-fil-A sandwich and a Coke, and we're not selling alcohol in those sections to be able to prevent that. And I think people have been appreciative of that because there's some people that want to bring their kids and they don't want them sitting next to somebody drinking like that. But that's still an ongoing process. I think everybody in some of these older stadiums are still figuring out, you know, you start selling beer, the points of sale aren't enough, the lines really start backing up, and that's when people start getting unruly and complaining. And we just have to invest in that infrastructure.
You work on Oscar Dell?
So NCAA rules prohibit me from talking about that, but I can tell you we're doing pretty well in that region in recruiting, so I'm excited about it. I know it's down to us and another school we shall not name right now, but I think our recruiting's going really well. I showed my wife this, and I'll stop talking. I know I've talked too long. My wife says I'm long-winded and I'll talk to anybody and everybody all day. But last night I saw a graphic come up on social media. And I don't like social media very much because I think it's a lot of negative. And it was a prospect that we're recruiting, and he had gotten 8 different offers, letters in the mail, offering a scholarship. And one of them was not Clemson, so I'm not going to rag on the Clemson people right now. But it was 7 other SEC schools. And the letter that it had was all about the individual, how you're going to be an NFL player, you're going to have all these fancy things, and just a lot of pumping them up to be the best person. And ours was Shane Beamer hugging what would be the future prospect with his name across the back, and it said, "Why join a program when you can join a family?" I showed my wife and I said, "This is exactly what we wanted." is something like this. I think that makes a huge difference. And she said, why do you think? And I said, well, what if Cason's getting recruited and you got these 8 letters? Which one makes a bigger impact on Mama? And she said that one. I said, yeah, that's who we're after. We're not after the prospect. We're after Mama. Mama makes the decision, right? So, yes.
I don't know Shane Beaver personally, but his cousin was my husband's secretary. And so we've kind of followed his career, through the years. But he comes across very professionally, and I love how he does his interviews online. He's very smooth.
He is, and what you see is what you get. That's how he is all the time. And that's what I think is more impressive is, you can have somebody that gets up in front of the media and they're one person, and then when the cameras go off, they're different. And we don't have that. I think that's probably the best thing that we have going for us. And he's learned from some really good ones. His dad was a phenomenal coach for a long time. He learned from Philip Former at Tennessee, George O'Leary at Georgia Tech, Kirby Smart, Lincoln Riley. I know we didn't hire a head coach with head coaching experience, but all the guys he's been around, by osmosis, he should have learned something. So I just want to thank each and every one of you for letting me come out here today to talk about the Gamecocks and the wonderful things our university has done. And if you guys need anything, need any help, please feel free to reach out to me. Okay? Thank you.
I want to make one comment. Chance talked about the development in partnership with Yale and the spit test. There was an article in the Greenwood News yesterday that it is titled "Thousands of Tubes of Spit Are Saving Lives on College Campuses Across South Carolina." You're welcome to take a copy. And I'll tell you this one little funny story about that partnership. It was discussed in a trustee meeting, and the only question that came out, because we provided these to all the colleges around, all the athletics in the state, and one of the trustees raised his hand and he said, "Can we bill Clemson? Can we send them an invoice for the ones we send up there to them?" So I thought it was pretty good. We tried. We couldn't get any money out of it, but it was worth trying. But here, feel free to take one. And last week I got volunteered to read by Edie. But I told Chance Cocky is going to read his book on video for me, and that would be my submission, and I will get a makeup for getting that done.
As long as you email, you will get a makeup.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much, Chance, for a couple different things. I'm teaching University 101 for the first time with the USC Union. I can definitely relate to the student athletes who get up at 5 a.m. and even for 11 o'clock class, they're having trouble. Thank you so much for pointing out the COVID testing. If you've been swabbed, I think they touched the back of my eyeball. That test is incredible because all you have to do is work up a little bit of spit. And for us, most of us guys, it doesn't take very long. Thanks for a little bit of inside look, and appreciate the family aspect for sure. Before you leave today, we want to get you to sign a book, and we actually donate this to a local elementary school. Thank you everyone else for announcements, etc. And don't forget.
Are these people that have already?
No, those are past years. So recommend for you to kind of follow up with some of those, and if you'll let us know who you're going to follow up with, that will probably be great, so we don't have 3 or 4 people calling the same person. If you have any questions about duck race tickets, see Amber, Jonathan for barbecue tickets, and thank y'all so much. If y'all will stand and let's do the 4-way test. Is it the truth?
Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
And our motto, service above self. Serve to change lives.